Jack, how are you, my friend?
Good deal.
It's good to be back.
Yeah.
2020? 2020? 2021?
21. I listened to it the other day, making sure I didn't go over the old ground and bore people. So hopefully we got some new interesting content.
I very much appreciate you coming in, mate. It's an honour, pleasure and privilege to get you back in the studio. Wealth of knowledge, and to this day, easily one of the most requested episodes to come back and have you as a guest. I know you're a very busy man at the Blues at the moment, but we really appreciate your time. And it's not often, Das, we get a guest coming in with some handwritten notes, which just gives me...
Yeah, it's exciting.
It gives me adrenaline. It gives me excitement, and that's about it. But I'm pumped.
Well, we'll talk about what that adrenaline means.
Okay, good.
Where it's coming from and how it can help you later
For
on.
someone
we'll bring
who
that into it.
hasn't heard that pod before, could you give a quick little synopsis, elevator pitch of who you are, what you do?
Yep.
And then also what you've been up to over the break.
Yeah, cool. So I worked in AFL footy for over 20 years. Bit of a one-trick pony, very fortunate. Came out of university straight into it. Great Kevin Sheedy. Got me involved in Essendon. And then at the age of 23, I'm running Port Adelaide's program. Was there for 4 years. Fortunate enough to be part of a premiership there. We went to Hawthorn when Clarko started, so we started together. We built that together. I was there for 14 years of that journey, which we had some great times. We had some tough times. It was all part of it. And then I end up Carlton, and been at Carlton for feels like forever. But 4 or 5 years, Carlton. I've also trained some Olympic athletes along the way, which has been really special to me. I love physiology. I love really training that individual athlete. So to get the team sport involvement, but also get the individual involvement, was amazing. And again, had some really some real highs with that, and learn a lot. I made a couple of big mistakes, probably one big mistake. And again, the mistake was around communication with that athlete at a time when they were Jeff Risley, which is, one of Australia's greatest middle distance guys. He still holds a 1,000-metre Australian record. He was in the best shape of his life, and we didn't get it right at the World Champs. He had an injury 10 days out he didn't need to have. Through communication, I'm here, he's in Europe. Highly motivated athlete, doesn't quite give, everything around, I'm sore, I'm this, I'm that. I didn't really listen to some of the messages you were sending me because I'm so motivated about, mate, we're flying here, we're going to go, you're going to be the first athlete in 40-something years to make a final, the World Champs, because, he was in 143 shape, which I think there's only been one athlete, I think Peter Boyle. Might be the only one that's run 143. So anyway, so you learn. You continue to learn, and you never nail it.
It's a hectic experience, that like the athlete-coach relationship, because I haven't found as being in those positions a little bit too. And today, actually, just to wrap, when we talk about athletes, for those out there listening, you might not be an elite athlete. I might be Peter Bowl running in the Olympics, but athletes, I find now, are not just the ones running. They're like businessmen, businesswomen. They're people that just want to excel in their field. And all of this stuff is relevant for everyone. And I even find now, like all of my mates that just loved your episode that we did, they're all just guys and girls that just want to get the best out of themselves. Is that how you define an athlete?
100%. Every single thing we're going to talk about today is about just being your best self. The athletes apply these principles to running faster, kicking a footy better, swimming down the lane faster. But it doesn't matter if you want to be the best cook you can be, you want to be the best financial planner you want to be. It doesn't matter what you want to be. These principles apply. For
sure. I'm a better athlete now than I was when I was playing elite sport. And
are you sure?
Well, mentally, I think. Maybe not physically, which we'll touch on later. But I do genuinely feel like my habits now are, and it comes to the stage as well of like, you don't know what you know till you know it, and you've got to learn from mistakes and all these bits and pieces. But I feel like I'm a lot more high achieving athlete than I am now than I was, for sure.
Well, but this is why it's so important, the education piece, isn't it? Because so many athletes come through the system and aren't really sure what to do or how to do it.
You wouldn't believe
complex.
this, right? But when I first got into footy, I didn't even know that players did pre-season training. So like the first test we ever did, they're like, "Oh, what'd you do over the break?" So I had a great holiday. They're like, "Did you do any of the running?" I was like, "I thought that was just like optional."
What year did you start?
2012.
2012?
Yeah.
Wow. you were on another planet.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've said
There
this.
weren't too many of you around in
We
2012.
said this last time that I don't think our relationship would be as strong as it is now if we had to work together. But I'm happy that didn't happen. Anyway, what did you get up over the break? Were you doing some stuff away? Doing some stuff?
Yeah. I mean, a couple of years we couldn't get away because of COVID. I was really fortunate. I went to Colorado Springs and I did a leadership course over there, which was fascinating. I was working with some amazing people. There was a 4-star general in that course who, for those who aren't aware, and I actually wasn't aware how important they are in America. I think there's 10 of them in America.
What is it?
Well, they're one of the he runs part of the Army. So he runs 250,000 of the US Army, this guy. So, it was day one. I think I sat there and we had to do all these presentations, and then I was having a chat with him. I said, what do you do? Everyone else is thinking this guy's a rock star, and I've never heard of him before. And I said, oh, yeah, you're a 4-star general. And so, have you met the president? He goes, yeah, I met the president. I sit down with him once a month and, I chat with the president of the United States about what's happening and, all this sort of stuff. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm going to spend more time with you.
Fucking hell. Did you get it like any sort of revelations from being around him? Did you learn anything from him through that sort of course? Or
look, he was very respectful of everyone.
Yeah.
He was a very well educated man. He was very calm. You could tell how calm he was and how calm he would be under pressure. So that sense of I know that I'm going to be okay if this guy is around. That feeling.
Yeah.
But in terms of leadership, he was sitting there and he was one of us. There was a lot of good people in the room, and we debated, we chatted, we challenged, and, it was pretty cool.
Out of curiosity, how do you get onto one of those sort of like leadership sort of courses? Like, do you have to apply for it? Or are you asked to come on it? Like, how does that sort of work?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, you have to apply for it, and then they basically say you
fit the bill.
You fit the bill.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. It's actually an interview process. You go through and they say, we want everyone to be, we don't want people to stand out one way or the other. Because what was really cool about this experience was that they had these things that they call a heat experience. They had 3 of them over the week. And so a lot of time you learn stuff and it's great and you take a bit with you and you sort of miss a bit. What they did is you would learn a bit and then they'd put you under pressure. So they'd have the camera in the corner, they'd have a concept, and then you had to perform under pressure. So whatever that was. So we work in the room, day one, and you had to do a 3-minute pitch to the board or someone in your organisation to try and change something in your organisation. So you walk in the room, you've never met these people before, you don't know who they are, you don't know where they're from. There's 12 people staring at you. They're 1 metre from you. There is a TV camera 3 metres from you. You had to look straight down the TV camera and give this pitch for 3 minutes on what you want to do and how you want to make it better. The added layer for me was I was the first one up. So I sort of knew what I was being asked to do, but I didn't know what I was being asked to do, So I didn't start that well. I got going and my finish was okay, but a little bit scratchy at the start.
What did you talk about? Or was it just off the top of your dome? Did they give you time to prepare?
No, they gave you time to prepare. Yeah. So I talked about some stuff that we wanted to do at Carlton around, structuring the staff and, what I thought was important to make us better. So the concept was simple, but it was just, and then in the afternoon you came back and for 3 hours we went through the vision, every single person, and they pulled it apart. This is what you did well. This is where your eyes went. This was your body language. These were your hands. Why are you using your hands that way? Should you use your hands that way? Your messaging was really effective. Then you dropped off. And they did something really cool at the end. They asked, so you had to do a very specific pitch, and then at the end, they asked you questions about your life. All right, that's about where you grew up, your dog, your whatever. And what was fascinating is some people did not change, as in they were exactly the same person when they were on, in terms of in work mode, and one part of their brain was switched on, and what they were trying to look at was the difference between when one part of your brain is switched on and then you go to another part of your brain when you're just talking about life. So you just become natural. It's whatever is in your subconscious. You don't even know why you're talking about it. You just start talking about your dog. And some people change dramatically. Like they were really highly strung and then just like, oh my God, that's a different, literally flick the switch, different person. Like when they started talking about themselves and they became comfortable with the content, and other people the other way. Some people were really anxious talking about their life, and they were amazing when they were in work mode.
That's
it was pretty cool.
What was the study, what were you trying to sort of analyze in that process, or was it just little bits and pieces you could pick up on being a better effective communicator, leader?
Oh, well, that specific one was just around visual, presentation, the ability to affect change.
Yeah, and convey a message.
Are you believable?
Yeah.
Do they like you? Are you believable? Do you have passion? Can you back it up with stats? All those, everything encompassed into one. But other stuff we did, was we did some other really good stuff during the week as well, where we looked at other aspects of, communication. One of them was active listening. So for 45 minutes, we had to sit there and actually actively listen to someone. It's crazy how, really good leaders really struggle to listen. Like they would just, and they're jumping in and they're interrupting. It was really cool to watch.
I've made, and not that I'm an incredible leader or anything like that, but there's two things that I've tried to do over the last 2 years, and I'm still trying to effectively do it. And it's like trying to be the last guy to talk around the table. So when you're in a meeting and something happens, and you're first to just jump in and give your point of view, and it's like if you can be the last person to actually give your point of view, by the time the 5 other people talk, your views probably drastically change to give you a better perspective of the situation, and it'll actually change your mind anyway. So it's been a big one that I'm... Darcy, how you going
with it?
I think you're improving, mate.
Trying to improve.
You're getting there.
Yeah. The concept that I love about this, and it could even flow into one of the topics that you've got here today, is the fact that, how old are you now?
I'm 48.
48.
This
You've
week.
been doing this... Happy birthday for this week.
Yeah, thanks.
You've been doing this for 20 years, you said?
I started in 1998, so what's that?
Fuck me.
I started at 21.
There you go.
Yeah, so
it's a long time.
26 years or something.
Yeah, what's a quiz? Chuck in the notes if you know the answer to that. One thing I love about that though, and what you do, is you have to live and breathe what you're preaching, right? And I think that's something that I saw something the other day. If you don't use it, you lose it. I'm in this position now. I'm 30 years old. I talk about this shit on podcasts, and I'm actually actively trying to do these things too. And 2 years ago, I went on this camp with David Butterfin, who have you ever crossed paths with his brothers?
Yeah. No,
so
Butters, yeah.
Went on one of his camps. Because I left footy, I was like, I'm not fucking testing myself anymore. I haven't done anything. We went to Tassie, did caving. I'm claustrophobic as fuck. I absolutely hate that shit. Went away with 8 guys that I didn't know.
Yeah.
No phone reception. And was a huge growth experience, getting uncomfortable. And I had to get up and talk about myself. And, I'm quite good at talking, but around 8 people that I didn't know with no phone reception, you imagine how much that sort of stresses you out even a bit more in a foreign state, let alone country. I'm doing another one this year. We're going to do, I think we're doing a trek in Tassie. It's called, I think it's 6 days sort of to do it. But point of where I'm going is that importance of being able to force yourself to do uncomfortable things and continue to grow. How important do you feel that is as athletes, but as just humans in general?
Well, I think it's the most important thing you can do as a human if you want to continue to grow. I think from the point of view of an athlete, or anyone who's trained, the sort of the deconditioning. Let's look at the deconditioning component first before we worry about getting back in shape.
Yeah.
The deconditioning component at the cellular level happens really quickly. You start to decondition super, super early. We're talking 7 to 10 days of limited activity at a cellular level. You start to decondition, and then you've got musculoskeletal, so muscles, tendons, ligaments, all those type of things as well, which are a little bit longer than that. But you talk about 2 weeks of inactivity and you're starting to lose a fair bit. But what you don't need to do much to maintain it though. So just say you train 4 times a week and you do 4 lots of 30 minutes of something and strength and you're building up and we know that you need to do more than once, twice a week to get better at something. Once a week's not enough. It's better than nothing and it's fantastic. But if you actually want to get better, you have to be doing definitely more than once a week or whatever that is. But then the deconditioning, then you might only, once you build it up, you might only have to do once a week to maintain that quality. So if you're training, and something aerobically, if you do once a week, you're going to be able to maintain it. Speed, once a week, you're going to maintain it. But if you're developing it, you need to do more than that. In terms of when you stop, it can be really hard. And geez, you've got to be good at reading your body and what you can get away with. Weight-bearing sport is a lot harder than non-weight-bearing sport. So a running-based sport is going to be way harsher on the body. You know, the loads going through it are ridiculously higher. So you're going to be able to be more aggressive if you're starting in the gym, if you're starting going bike riding, swimming, anything non-weight bearing like that, it's going to be easier. But this principle of you don't use it, you lose it is true. But the more you have done previously, you will come back to it quicker. So if you're really active in your teenage years, you will come back to it much quicker than if you're inactive during your teenage years. So a 35-year-old, a 40-year-old who's been inactive for 10 years but was pretty active from 12 to 20, they're a much better chance of, getting back quicker and handling it easier.
So that's on a cellular base. And I want to talk about muscle memory, the question, but a big part of what your role, and I assume your role because I've experienced not your work up close in training, but there's such a cellular thing around like working in your body and your muscles and your tendons, and if you don't use it, you lose it. But how about that point of like the mind of like, if you use it, you lose it, in the sense of pushing yourself and continually pushing yourself out of your boundaries?
I mean, it's hard to distinguish between body and mind because it's all one. But again, at a cellular level, we're talking about, brain neurons are exactly the same. If you're not using that, you will lose it. And if you use it, it will grow. So, and let's look at developing a skill. So if we talk about footy, we talk about the skill of kicking a footy, handballing. I think we might have talked about this last time about laying down of myelin, and, the more repetitions you do, you lay down more myelin, and then this concept, Hebbian learning, the neurons that fire together wire together. So the rich get richer. If you do exactly the same habit over and over and over and over again, then those neurons are going to wire together and it's going to become very, very strong. If you don't do it, then it starts to unwire. So the body we can train ourselves to do a lot of things, and it's why you think, how does that athlete do that, but they can't do that? There's very little transfer from being very good at something to very good at something else. A good swimmer is not a very good runner. A good runner is not a good swimmer. An elite, we have elite, guys who win Tour de France, then they go and run, and they run a 2:30 marathon. I mean, it's very good, but it's not the best in the world that they were. So it's very, training is very specific to what you want to be good at. Habit building is very specific. If you want to build a habit, you have to do that over and over and over and over again. And I think, we talked about this earlier off air around the concept of grit and resilience and building confidence, and, what is that? And, I'm sure a lot of people have read the Angela Duckworth stuff around grit and basically that ability to persevere, be passionate and persevere for a long-term goal, whatever that long-term goal is. And there's a couple of really important things that you need to consider if you want to become good at anything, and principles that she described really, really well, and others. But number one is hope. Hope is really important because we have setbacks, things happen, things get in your way, and you have to believe that things are going to work out well for you. You have to be intrinsically interested and love and passionate about what you're doing, all right? That can't come from mum or dad. It can't come from spouse. It can't come from friends. It may start off being driven by someone else, and that's okay because we don't all have it. Not everyone has this unbelievable desire and passion and drive. We can train it, but you got to think about it, and you've got to want it badly, and then you have to practice a lot. We talked about just over and over and over and over and over and repetition and making mistakes, and that's how we lay down this myelin, which is a more sophisticated nerve, which means you can do stuff that in the moment you don't even think about it. We see guys on the footy field. We see Saad do a kick off his boot to the side. I guarantee he's not thinking about that. He's only doing that because he's done it 1,000 times in training, and then he's practiced, and then he's put it, under pressure in a game. It's worked, and his brain says, "Oh, how good's that? That worked." And then it lays down that motor program related to what he just did. So the next time he gets that situation, he's not thinking about it. I remember years ago, Kevin Sheedy said to James Hird in a team meeting, he said to him, because he kicked the ball literally sideways to the wing one day, and he said, "Hirdy, tell everyone how you did it and why you did it and what you were thinking." And Hirdy said, "I absolutely know. I didn't even know I did that kick. I don't even know what you're talking about, Sheed. Sorry, mate." Just because he's done it that many times, he just, over and over. And the last thing in that process is purpose, having a purpose. It's like, well, why are you doing it? You know, there's got to be something beyond you, a reason beyond you. And we talked about this a lot and had a lot of people, you know, amazing people on your program have talked about this. So that hope, interest, practice, and purpose underlines resilience. You just keep coming back to those principles, you know, the whole time. And then you look at, all right, a little bit more specific than that is say, well, different people are born with different talents. So people have to work out what they're sort of naturally good at. And that sort of happens over time. You work out what you're good at. And I mean anything in life, but then you develop, you have a bit of talent in an area. You then work on that skill, all right? You get better. All right, that skill improves. You feel better about yourself. Your confidence goes up. Confidence only goes up by doing the work. Yeah. This concept, you know, people, I believe in yourself, and it's bullshit, really. Yeah. Like it's absolute rubbish. The only way you get to believe in yourself is by doing the work, and over and over and over.
I reckon one of my biggest personal unlocks is we had Jonah Oliver on the show, like maybe last year or 2 years ago, and he's the Cam Smith's. The golfer's personal psychologist. He now works with all the live golfers. You imagine how much of a how much they need a psychologist playing golf. I need one myself. But he spoke about this unbelievable concept of confidence versus competence. It's like confidence isn't a thing. Like you get confident by being competent. Like you can't be. If I'm going to go out and play on the PGA Tour, I'm not competent in doing that, so I can't really be confident doing it.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think when you're talking to really good coaches and really good athletes, the same principles come up. They just keep coming up. There's no mystery. You know, I think everyone thinks there's a mystery, you know, around someone being amazing. There is no mystery. It is a lot of hard work, concentrated hard work, you know, a lot of mistakes, bouncing back. The mystery is in, well, how tough are they? How resilient are they, and how much are they prepared to do when things don't go their way? Because every single athlete I've ever worked with, spoken to, has had significant interruptions along the way. Significant, whether they're interruptions in terms of physically, emotionally, psychologically, challenges with family members, challenges with parents, challenges with teachers, significant others that have influenced them. You know, life is challenging. Life is tough. And the good performers are the ones that actually, you know, they almost love it. You know, they almost love when things don't go well.
Yeah. You know, what's really a really cool point I'd love to touch on in this sense is like when you say good performers and good athletes, we're not just talking about the best players, are we? Like, I think one thing that's been really interesting leaving an elite sport is seeing players transition. And whilst there's players that might be the best in the team and they have an enormous amount of skill, I don't think that they necessarily have this resilience and stuff in it, because when they transition, the habits aren't there, the resilience isn't there, it doesn't maybe go into the second part of their career, and it can be built, it can be there. But then there's those other players that you see that, you know, they're probably stringing to mind now that you've worked with there, where they're not the best players, but they just fucking have resilience, they have grit, they get the most out of themselves, they're the best athletes, you know, in quotation marks, and that then trajects into the next part of their life.
Yeah, I think, well, if you look at the best teams, they have a lot of trust in each other and they're reliable. And then they have moments of brilliance. You know, so these guys that have got some pretty special stuff, they bring it to life at times and you see some pretty special stuff. But most of it's not. Most of it's just they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Most of the time. You know, and this is the you know, that concept which a lot of people have used over the years around, you know, raising the floor and lowering the bar, you know, and essentially that's what high level performance in anything is about your daily average. What is your daily average?
But surely you'd see athletes that you work with where you go, fucking hell, man, like, not sure if the resilience is there, not sure if the talent, but like you just get it done anyway. Is there sometimes a exception to the rule?
There's an exception to the rule in that
It's not sustainable.
They can have moments of brilliance.
Yeah.
So when, you know, there is moments of brilliance, but reliability and consistency is different to moments of brilliance.
Yeah.
And I think that's why fans get frustrated with some players.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, why can't he do that every week? Or why is he only doing that twice a game? And that's it. That's the challenge, isn't it? For the player, for the people working with that player. And you can get there. You know, you can work on it. You don't have to be resilient. to learn resilience, but geez, you've got to want it. You've got to be passionate about it, because you essentially all you're doing is you have to rewire. You got to rewire your brain, and it doesn't. Some are started with their wiring more sophisticated than others. You know, some of them have got really good habits, and some of them, their habits aren't great. But I've seen some players change their habits, like, you know, some players over the years that are extraordinary. They had talent, they had moments of brilliance, and they actually changed their habits and became really consistent. In fact, some of them, their levels of brilliance may have gone down a fraction, but their consistency went up and they became an even better player.
Yeah.
Because they played the percentages a bit more, understood the game and the limitations and what the moment requires. It's like, and you talk about leadership, you talk about an athlete, you talk about everything. One of the key principles talked about at this course is like, what does this moment require of me right now? When the shit's hitting the fan, what does the moment require of me right now? You know, and that's what the good leaders do on field. That's what the good leaders do off field. They don't lose their shit. They have the ability, and a lot of them have had to train themselves to do that. Yeah. Like, that's trainable. That's not very natural for most people to really have to bring himself down and think through things calmly.
It's a great point. Very well articulated. I think I was trying to somehow string a sentence together about it, but you nailed it. What have you got for us here in some A4 papers?
Yeah, well, we talked about, I think one of the things, if you want to become gritty and resilient and or whatever, that, you know, we've talked about that.
Yep.
But essentially we're talking about building habits. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was, if you're trying to build a habit, there's this thing called limbic friction, which is stopping us from building strong habits. So the research talks about habits, talks about 3 weeks to develop a habit. And yeah, you can develop a habit, but habits can take a long, long time to develop. Like, you know, some of the stuff is like, it can take a year. And so why is that? And so one of the fascinating things around the way the brain works is that different parts of the day, different things happen, different hormones are released. So if we talk about limbic friction is all about overcoming a state of being sleepy, unmotivated, or anxious. And that stops us from doing something we want to do or intend to do, or, you know. So we have a goal, want to change a habit, but we just can't break through. So that is the state that this limbic friction is stopping us. So things like the start of the day, we have more adrenaline released at the start of the day. We have more dopamine released at the start. We have more cortisol released at the start of the day. First 8 hours of the day are a better time to develop a habit, because as you go through the day, the second 8 hours of the day, dopamine goes down, serotonin goes up, and we become more relaxed and we go into more of a sleepy state. Mm-hmm. So if you want to build a habit, or you want to build something, do it when limbic friction is at its lowest, which is earlier in the day. And hormonally, that's why we just feel more motivated when we get up. Generally, not maybe straight out of bed, but, you know, within an hour or two or whatever, we feel more motivated. And then at night time, we've got testosterone, melatonin goes up. And that's when we are at our absolute calmest. And that is when everything gets embedded in our nervous system. So all the stuff that happened during the day, the good and the bad, gets embedded overnight into our nervous system and goes into long-term memory and all those amazing, fascinating things that happen without you even knowing it. So, you need to, some people who struggle, they need to spend a lot of effort. It's a lot of effort. So do it at the right time of day. When you do.
So you're saying the AM?
Well,
like
AM,
first half of the day.
Yeah, first half of the day. And the other thing though is really cool is there a thing called linchpin habits. So you got stuff that you're good at. It's easy. You've been doing it for years. So they talk about attaching a new habit to, you know, an old habit that's a good one.
Habit stacking?
So habit stacking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just beautiful, isn't it? You know, it makes sense. You do something that's easy and then you go, right, that's easy for me. Oh, and now I'm going to do a bit of mobility because I really don't want to do it. I don't enjoy it. I don't love it. But guess what? I know it's better for me. So do, you know, half an hour of what you love and then just do 5 minutes of what you don't love. And then you just build and build and build.
Cripper probably learned this from you, but I think one that he referred to was, you know, every morning he has a coffee. It's like, well, that's a good one that he loves. He does it. So every time you have a coffee now, you foam roll for 5 minutes. Something like that.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. And then as we know, the more you do it, it goes into your subconscious and then you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
So we know you have to spend a lot of conscious effort for it to go into your subconscious. And if you think about how our subconscious is processing, you know, some of the stuff talks about 20 million pieces of information a second, you know, versus the conscious is just nowhere near that. So our subconscious dominates our world, absolutely dominates our world, which is both a good thing, but pretty scary. as well, because we're operating on autopilot for a lot of the day. We don't even know why we do it. We just do it because we've done it 1,000 times before. You know,
it's really cool when I've found even trying to pick up habits and recently just looking at food and everything that I'm doing, trying to break it down. The more you have those things, yes, you might fall along the way, but it's almost like just remembering the brain, the part, and you go, oh, fuck, I forgot it. And then yesterday I forgot it 3 times, today I only forgot it once. So just slowly you can actually feel yourself picking up on those things.
Oh, but so if you got really good sort of internal feel for things, and you're going to pick that up. But that's part of it. We want to become more sophisticated, don't we, and know what we are and what we're not. And other people are really good at picking up things, aren't they, too? You know, things like, in the leadership course, they talked about, really simple stuff like, even whatever you want to change, have someone that you give the license to make you accountable. So if you really genuinely want to change something, go to a friend, go to someone and say, look, this is something in me I want to get better at. This is something I'm working on. I want you to make me accountable, because people aren't going to do that. People don't give feedback. They're not great at feedback. They don't love it. It's really challenging to do that. So if you give them a license to say, I want to be this, and I want to know when I'm doing it. I want to know when I'm not doing it. I want to know when you see it. It can be pretty cool, because they'll pick up on a lot of things that you're not aware of, because you just operate the way you've always done it.
Yeah, my wife and I have done that with our phones at the moment. That's a big one at home. Just like, we'll be like, nah, we're off our phones at this time. 2 seconds later, bang, we're straight back on it. And it's like, fuck, like, it's a small one. I know a problem for a lot of people. People don't think it's as serious, but it really is. Like, we've almost at the stage where we've just got to lock them in another room.
Yeah, well, our attention, we talked a little bit about it earlier, about where's your attention. And they're absolute killer, aren't they?
Yeah, but especially once you have kids, you just realise that it's ruining that time with them too. Yeah, massive. And I think a lot of us as parents are working hard on that, aren't we?
Yeah. The balance between the technology and the just getting them moving. And I'd have so many discussions with parents around, God, I just can't get them off it. Can't get them off it. And then, which is why sport and music and arts and, whatever they can do that you can get them involved in, being in the outdoors as much as they can, because then they don't even think about it. I know my son Jasper, he's right like this, but then he'll go on a camp for a week without it, and he said, I didn't even think about it. Yeah, I didn't miss it at all. I was just doing what I did, so creating the environment where literally you don't tell them not to do it, you just create it that it's not, they can't do it.
Well, you know what I was saying before about that camp I went on? The first day, I was like having a panic attack, nearly just grabbing my pocket, looking at it, no reception, walking around. After that, I was like, fuck this doesn't work. Left it in my room. On day 3, I just was okay. But it nearly took me 48 hours to like let my body calm down about this phone not working.
And I bet you when you finish the camp, straight back.
Yeah.
Straight back into it.
Straight back into it. Hey, I really like that one, Dust. Write that down. Limbic system. Limbic?
It's already down.
That's already a lesson learned.
Limbic friction.
Limbic friction.
Yeah.
And it was first 8 hours of the day. Time to make a new habit. Very good.
And then so much of this stuff is just it's so interconnected, because then we discussed a little bit before around hot colds, this everyone's doing, hot colds again. And what is fascinating, again, you provide the environment, you provide the conditions, and your body will respond. So if you provide a poor environment, lots of challenges, lots of stress, your body will respond that way. If you provide, a really optimal environment, then it will respond that way, and different hormones. So we're talking about hormones that are being released from your brain. They're just doing it because of what you provide. So heat is an example of that. So cold, what is it making a difference? Is it important? And there's some really cool stuff about it. And if you think about when you're in cold, sympathetic nervous system fires up. So all of a sudden you feel more alert. Dopamine goes up. Testosterone goes up. Brown fat, which is fascinating because brown fat has got mitochondria, increased mitochondria, being a more highly functioning human being, more mitochondria equals, increased cellular health, and then the health of each cell is critical and very much related to the health of the mitochondria. But increasing mitochondria numbers is great for the cell, but then it's also great for the athlete. The endurance athlete is looking for increased mitochondria. That's why we do the endurance training that we do. It's why the best athletes in the world do a lot of endurance work. Hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. They are basically trying to increase the numbers of mitochondria to be able to increase aerobic metabolism. So start of the day, do it early, do it before a meeting. If you're feeling flat, you're feeling down, very similar to effects of caffeine. So if you don't drink caffeine, you don't want to drink caffeine, then cold water immersion. Being immersed in the cold is going to be better than a cold shower, but a cold shower is really effective. So better at the start of the day to do cold than to do hot. But things like if you're into strength training, don't do it after you do a strength session. It's within 4 hours of a strength session because it can dampen the hypertrophy response. So you sort of got to know when to use it, when not to use it, and what is it actually trying to do. And there's a little bit maybe decreases inflammation after a session or after a game as well. So you can use it. But whatever you do with hot and cold and all this, whatever you do, your body gets used to whatever the stimulus is. So you need to change it up. You need to do different things. You don't just do the same thing every single time, because if your body has a really optimal response the first time, you do the same thing, by the 20th time, it won't have the same response. It's like we take a drug.
Yep.
Initially, we have, our body responds a certain way, and then we need a greater dose, different dose for our body to keep responding. That's why people take more for the same effect.
So are you meaning more in sense of, say you do an ice bath every morning, 2 minutes, and that's your set routine. If you keep doing that, it's going to have less an effect on what you do because your body will get used to it. Then what would you be doing in that sense? Would you be swapping it in terms of longer time, colder baths, or would you be swapping going like hot and colds? And
all of that.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah.
Basically just throwing the stimulus up.
Just doing different bits and pieces, yeah.
And a lot of the research, on the human stuff talks about 10 minutes a week. And but really, this is just experimenting with it. You probably don't want to overdo it, like do it all the time.
Yep.
You want to do it all the time. I think, as I said, the more you do it, the more you got to change it. So it's, but some people love it. So if you love it and you get a response every day, and that's your routine, then, that's great.
Have you seen players, since there has been this ice bath sort of craze and it's popular now on social media, is it more used at a footy club now from the boys, or do you think they're still using them the same amount?
No, I don't think it's changed the footy club environment. Well, one thing that changed at Carlton is we didn't have it.
Do you not have our ice baths?
Well, we do now, but we've got an amazing facility now in the last 18 months. But prior to that, we didn't have much at all. So, no,
But prior to that, they used to have the walking treadmill one.
Yeah, they did, and we used it a little bit, but I didn't overplay it.
Yeah.
Because, and it's actually interesting, the environment, they didn't love being in there because the environment was dark, dingy.
Yeah.
And it's like the environment that you're in is really important as well. So I actually didn't hammer it, whereas now they use it so much because it's light. So we put a lot of time and energy into planning the facility around it. They want to be in there, and it's a good place to be.
It was pretty
lots of light, lots of green. Like that was a really important part of the build.
Fuck, that's really interesting. I know we sort of reference human a little bit now with the getting out in the morning before 10 a.m, like sunlight and stuff like that too, is something that I'm really aware of these days. Like, the podcast studio has to be dark for certain reasons because you can't, just for quality of vision. But besides that, I'm always opening blinds at home, opening the windows, getting out as much as I can before 10 a.m. for that B12 hit. Is that what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Or vitamin D. Vitamin D, but all those things, talked about, cortisol, dopamine, like it's hormonal. That's what you're looking to do. And then the heat is very different. Yeah. The heat is about your parasympathetic nervous system. So it's all about, recovery and dampening down and, unbelievably good for sleep. Doing, having a steam room or being hot before sleep it's amazing. It really, there's hardly a person that's done it that hasn't improved their sleep, that's used it. But, growth hormone release, really cool things people may not have heard on is, everyone knows an endorphin release after you exercise and you feel good. But when you're in a stress state, you have dynorphins release, which is the opposite. All right. So when we're under stress in exercise, it's uncomfortable, and now the really cool research around being uncomfortable is so important to then bouncing out of that to feeling amazing. Yep. So the dynorphin release, a whole lot of hormonal changes. You feel stressed, you feel, you don't love it, and then you come out of it and your body responds the opposite way, and then you have all these hormones that are released that make you feel amazing about yourself, increase recovery. So again, you're providing the environment. You don't need to do anything. You just need to stress yourself and then you need to get out of that environment and you get the benefit, which is pretty cool, isn't it?
Just on that point about the ice baths and saunas and steam rooms, hot, colds, what would you say just for the average Joe or the average athlete out there now? Would you sort of give them a bit of a synopsis on those of what they should be doing, or what if they're interested in those things? What's the time limits or the benefits? When should they be doing them versus alike?
Yeah. Well, look, this is trial and error, and there's a bit out there on it, but I think mainly it's about playing around with these different things. So certainly, heat is late in the day, cold is early in the day. Really strong on, players don't do heat 2 days before a game because it can really dampen you down and can make you feel fatigued. And that's part of the recovery process, is to actually feel fatigued before you bounce out of it. So that's really important. We play around with a whole lot of different stuff. We might do just a 20-minute straight steam, one day, and then the next day it's more of a hot cold. And then next day it might be steam, and then go outside, stop sweating, get out into the environment, and then go back in, sweat, go back out, stop sweating. So that mechanism, a lot of people love around the sweat to stop sweat. So, so in terms of some of that toxic removal that we know is also beneficial from sweating in any capacity. We're just creating it artificially. It's the same as exercise. You're getting, those toxins released. The cold, again, do a lot of hot colds, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Might be 4 by 2 minutes cold, 2 minutes hot. Some days we might finish with a cold, other days we might finish with a hot, depends on the middle of the day or it's at the end of the day. Yeah, right. There are so many different variations. It is such a fascinating area. And I think there's just a lot of trial and error going on for people. So just have a go. Yeah. Really, there is no right or wrong, but just using the basic principles of what you want to get out of it. If you're in cold, you are looking to get going. And if you're in hot, you are looking to dampen down.
Yeah. I did a sauna the other night at the gym. I went to the gym, did some weights. After that, jumped in the sauna. And I know you said before, but genuinely hit my head on the pillow and was one of the best sleeps I've had in my life. Apparently, my baby was up all night. I was out. So the missus didn't love it, but I did. It was really good.
I reckon she might get onto it soon.
Yeah, I think so. Which is good.
And then you got stuff like if you want to really heat up quickly or cool down quickly. So if you've been in an environment where you're really, really hot and you want to cool yourself down quickly, there's 3 areas of the body that they're these things called, they've got AVAs, so there's no capillaries between your arteries and your veins, so heat transfer is very, very quick. All right, it's palm of your hands, your feet, and your face through here. So, the old ice bar, the old ice in the back of the towel, the head, all that is not really as effective as hands, feet, face. If you really, and that's what you see the medicos, you see them trying to, in a situation if someone's overheated or they might have frostbite or something, that's where they go to. You see them with the hands and the feet. A lot of the time is the focus just they're not worried about the body as much as hands and feet.
Yeah, wow. So just dipping your face into cold water?
Yeah. You can do it it doesn't really matter. Yeah. You can do it in a few different ways. You could put ice packs on, you could put your hands in cold water, feet, whatever.
Super interesting. In terms of actually sport and stuff too for recovery, will you trial that through games and hot games, ice vests and stuff like that? Have you found much benefit in those sort of things?
Not really. Yeah. It's a difficult environment because you don't have much time.
Yeah.
Everything's so fast paced, and even half time. Even half time. I know clubs have experimented with ice rooms and everything at half time and all that. And I don't know whether they've been successful or not with that. But what I know is if you're in the ice thing, you're in a shortened position, you're sitting down, and you're probably not communicating with your teammates and coaches about what you need to change for the second half. So there's always a trade-off between science and the practicalities of
what's going on
of your sport, and just getting shit done that needs to get done at that stage.
Yeah.
So I'm more for that. Just do what the team needs to do than worrying around tricky science, unless it's an extreme environment and you think, well, that really matters.
Yeah.
So we did. So we prepared Hawthorn. We prepared in the steam room for a hot environment, and we got 2 grand finals over 30 degrees. I got no doubt it helped us. Absolutely no doubt. That's we had regular dosages second half of the year, and it ramped up towards the finals. And
so at half
we played
time,
night
you were
games
doing
every week. So every
saunas?
week except grand final.
Really?
And this where a lot of the big games now are played at night, and then grand final day. So I don't think we played in a day, maybe for 6 weeks. And then bang, you just hit 30 degrees on grand final day.
So you're doing saunas at half time?
No, definitely
after.
Definitely not.
Oh, it's throughout the week.
Throughout the week in preparation.
Yeah. Can I ask as well? So you said before starting at SM with Sheedy, now you're at the Blues. Long time in the game. What's been the biggest, if there even has been one, like 180 flip in high performance sort of science that you go, fucking hell, like 20 years ago we're doing this. Now we've actually found it's a complete opposite. Does anything stand out?
Well, we only just started with GPS at the early days. So early days we might have had 3 players and we just did it in training. So we were guessing what was going on. Look, our external load in terms of GPS is pretty good. Internal load in terms of, heart rate is an interesting space, because that's very different. If you do a handball game, for instance, you don't go anywhere. Yet, your heart rate's 95% max heart rate. So GPS has its limitations, whereas everyone thinks a lot of people think sort of that's it and that's all that matters. It's a lot more complex than just worrying about that. I think probably the biggest is the connection piece between the performance staff, the medical staff, the coaching staff. Like the integration now is outstanding in terms of what we're all trying to achieve.
Spoke about last time, you were talking, the coaches, medical staff and doctors sitting around like having really big discussions around certain things, and you're actually like going head to head on a couple of like big issues.
Oh, big time. I mean, it's just such a environment where everyone's got an input. And so, you're trying to come up with the best product. So in terms of the product now is a better product. Physically, they're well prepared, but we probably do less pure conditioning than we used to. Now it's a lot more integrated with the ball. So better decision-making in the fatigue state. But that's the balance for the guys in my role now is to say, well, are we doing enough pure conditioning versus getting in, within your ball program? And different people have different philosophies and you're playing around with it, changing it. And every year you're trying something different. We're trying something different this year. Looks pretty good, but we'll wait and see. How does it, we can think it's great, but the judgment is only what shows up on game day, what everyone will see. They see it, They may not know exactly what it is, but they see that something, you're going after something, aren't you? And it comes out.
It's really exciting. I was going to ask as well, just around a bit of a generic question, just in terms of sort of what we're talking about for an elite sport in general. If you're going to that, say, 30-year-old, and not expecting anyone to just go out there and run a fucking 2K at their best that they can, but in terms of physical strength and aerobic capacity, what would be some tests that the everyday athlete that's in the business world, the corporate world, whatever they're doing, would you recommend putting yourself through to sort of see where you're at? Like, what's the most like really holistic test to get a good gauge on your fitness?
Look, that's a tough question, Dyl. Yeah. Because it depends on what you want to do. So it's got to be related to what.
True. Like if you're riding or running or.
Exactly. So there is no answer to that.
Yep.
You have to work out, you'd have to work out what is it you want to train for and then go backwards from that. So start at the event doesn't matter if you want to run a 5K fun run or, you want to swim the pier to pub.
We'll say for my example, I'm doing the marathon this year in Gold Coast, July 6th.
Have you started training?
Yes.
How much?
I'm running 3 times a week and gymming twice, but I'm doing legs. I haven't done legs for 4 years, and I've already found from squatting, RDLing, and calf raising, like I feel like the best I've ever felt. Just getting the leg strength in, because I did one a couple of years ago and did no leg weights whatsoever, but then couldn't, after I completed it, like without joke, I couldn't run for a year. Like my body completely shut down.
Yep. Well, so your point is spot on. I would start before you'd start doing a lot of heavy running. If you haven't been running, I would start with a strength program. So if you start almost every different sport, if you've been out of it for a while or you've never done it, I would start and try and get some advice about a good solid strength program. And a good solid strength program is around its stability, balance, control, not necessarily lifting big heavy weights. Yep. A single leg squat, standing on the ground, and the ability to just do a single leg standing squat and a pistol squat, how many can you do?
Yep.
How many single leg calf raises can you do? Can you do a walk lunge? How many push-ups can you do? How many chin-ups can you do? It doesn't need to be very complex. We're talking about just some basic fundamental strength capacities. A lot of posture type work, like really concentrating on when you lift with really good posture, because it's very easy to overload structures, especially around the spine, neck, head, lumbar spine, if you're not lifting correctly. And And then, if the most basic for a marathon, really, if you're starting, it's probably somewhere around, if you're actually preparing for a marathon, it's probably something starting a lot like a 5K to see where you're at. And if you're pretty well prepared, then you're probably testing yourself over 10K, and then you're getting better prepared, you're testing yourself over a half marathon, and then you're obviously going to the big dance, and who knows what happens there, because it's a different beast altogether. But, I think you got to, if you want to run the marathon, you got to know, well, I need to be doing some pretty decent volumes, and I need to get out to 70 or 80% of the marathon before I get there. Or you sort of set yourself up, to fail a bit or really, really hurt in the last 10Ks.
Okay, I'll have to take this off air. Perfect. What else have we got to go through today?
Well, again, let's go through some other about recovery.
Yes.
Because obviously everyone's talking about it and what is it, and you talked about, well, what's changed. Well, one of the biggest things changed is analytics, analysing training, how we analyse training, and then how we assess their recovery, coming back. And so it's fascinating, little smartwatches, heart rate variability, you got, your sleep scores, your recovery scores, resting heart rates, all these things. And they're all really good, but you need to keep them in context. Like a lot of people live and die by them. They're just there for me. They're in the background. They're interesting, but I don't overplay it. Some athletes become obsessed by it and it rules their world. That's the danger of them. And some athletes don't really care at all. So, and they're just like, I'll just go by feel. You've really got to, by feel is more important than any of the data that you get. It's still knowing yourself and knowing whether you need a rest day, knowing whether you can push hard or pull back or whatever. But if we talk about, I think one of the things we spoke about as well is talking around breathing, breathing and things like that. And I think, again, we've talked a lot about the parasympathetic nervous system and all those things we can do, and let's use breathing as an example, is about maximizing your parasympathetic nervous system. And one of the main things within it is called the vagus nerve, right? The vagus nerve is, the connection between brain, brain, gut, digestion, and our heart. So, and the fibers, a lot of the vagal fibers go from your gut to your brain and not back. So we talk about how important diet is, and we talk about how important gut health is, and then we talk about, well, how important breathing is. Breathing is activating the vagal nerve, which is then leading to increase in parasympathetic hormones, which is then leading to an increased state of recovery. So again, we talked a lot about today about you provide the conditions and your body will respond. You're not breathing thinking I'm getting better, my vagus system, my vagus nerves are operating, I'm getting more, vagus nerve activation. Like, you're not thinking any of that, but it's all just happening in the background. I'm not in, my digestion isn't improving. There is some really good stuff around breathing and emotional states as well. So the breathing calms down the emotional states. Heart rhythm becomes more organized and coherent, which then feeds into parasympathetic nervous system being at an optimal level versus highly anxious, highly stressed, disorganized heart rhythm. Anything that is out of rhythm, your body doesn't like it. It's going to be more stressed, has to work harder to overcome that to get it back to homeostasis. So everything we do is about homeostasis. So if something is too high, your body's bringing it down. If something's too low, your body's trying to bring it up. It is constantly readjusting the whole time without you knowing about it. So that's the cool stuff. Obviously we're oxygenation to the cells, and then we've got carbon dioxide on the exhale, which is, getting rid of toxins. So there is a lot going on there, but there is no doubt that you are going to be a more highly functioning human being if you can use some good breathing techniques. And all of this stuff is dose respondent. So if you do it for 5 minutes, you'll get a little bit of benefit. If you do it for 15 minutes, you're going to get more. If you do 15 minutes every day, then you've got to be operating at a higher level.
Homeostasis, is that what you just referred to as well? So your body trying to just equal out? Is that what it means?
So every system, every hormone, everything in your body is constantly adjusting to the environment, the stress you throw at it. We are just in a constant state of,
trying to equal out,
going down. Yep. So I know that it's a concept, you've got to think a bit laterally about it. Everything we do is so, If heart rate is high, your body is doing its best to decrease that down. Metabolic rate is low, then your body will kick in to increase metabolic rate. So, and that, every system of the body, is pretty complicated.
Yeah,
it's pretty complicated.
It's very cool.
And that's why trying to change these things with supplementation and like changing these things, it's complex and it's all encompassing.
And it's very hard to talk generically about it because it's dependent on the person, I suppose, and what their symptoms or what they're trying to get out of it. Just a question around more of a statement actually, and this could be complete bullshit or not, but whenever I'm running, and I really do enjoy running, I feel like I'm in the best sort of at a cellular level. The best thing I love today is the word cellular, and also the fact that when I said body and mind, and you're like, it's the same fucking thing. We're actually connected. It's all the same. It's very true. I've never thought about it like that. But the point being is when I'm running and when I'm breathing as I'm running, I feel in a sense that, and I don't know if I've done this, but just from a bit of a mindfulness like level, I always run going, I'm breathing harder. The more good energy is coming in, bad energy is coming out, the sweat's dripping out of my body. And from essentially just talking about them around oxygen and actually breathing and all these things, like that's almost a form of that as well, isn't it? Like running, elevated heart rate, high breathing, blood's moving.
100%. I mean, you look at all the research around cardiovascular disease and a lot of these chronic disease states, and you look at the role of exercise and increased heart rate and doing strength training and all this. It's fascinating. Like, it's fascinating. There was some great work they looked at some older adults, and they looked at the role of doing HIIT training, some high intensity interval based training. They did 3 sessions a week. They did it with a group of 40-year-olds. They did a group with 65-year-olds. And they showed increases in mitochondria of between 50 and 60% at that age. So even at 50, 60, 70, we can actually be changing our physiology, which changes our health. There is never a moment, a day, a minute where you can't be improving your health. And obviously we know the main things are, through moderate exercise, diet, breathing, all the things we've talked about today are all pretty cool. And that, and again, it's just about being the best you can be. If you want to live, talk about lifespan versus disease span. Everyone's saying, well, it doesn't matter. We're living to 80, 85. It's going longer and longer and longer. But we're not all living longer in a state of health. Yeah, we're living in a state of disease. So these are decisions we all have. If you take away the performance lens, the principles are just exactly the same. We just need to calm down the amount of training we do, and we don't need to push ourselves as hard. But all the principles: body, mind, recovery, breathing, hot, cold, being active, mindfulness, meditation, whatever it is, whatever works for you, and they all apply to living a longer and healthier life. And then we know that genetics play a role. So some people's genetics might mean that they're predisposed to things finishing a little bit earlier, but it's maximizing whatever it is, whatever you've been given, whatever you've been born with. Well, let's get the best. Let's maximize that, which is pretty cool. But
so cool.
I'm not sure that people understand how powerful they are around those conditions you create, and then just let it happen. It'll happen for you, either positively or negative, but it's happening without you even knowing it.
Oh, and it's just becoming aware of it. Like, again, sometimes it takes for you to, I don't know if it's being generically here, but I'm really envy people that realise that at a young age. Like, I'm still quite young, but since becoming a dad, I've really realised this stuff. And I watched, because I want to be around for him, as long as I can. I want to have good examples, be a good, parent, have good sort of systems in place, so that even the other day I was away and me and my brother-in-law were going for a run, and he was sitting there watching us, and I was like, it's fucking fantastic. Like, he's seeing his dad go for a run. And I know he's like 10 months, but that habit will build over time. And then that will, I never really saw my parents going for a run. Anyway,
no, that's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That is really cool.
Have you seen Blue Zones?
Yes.
That's fucking interesting.
Yeah.
Like, exactly what you're talking about there around, it's not about, being an AFL star. It's just about living an optimal life. And my wife's grandmother is Hungarian. She's lived through, wars, fled Hungary to come to Australia, started a new life. And she is nearly 90. She grows all of her food in her backyard. She does Tai Chi. She plays tennis still at a tennis club. She has friends like groups. She's never had like takeout. And she's the most like wisdom, like she has the most wisdom, like extremely healthy, still can get on hands and knees and pick up veggies out of the gut. Like it's fucking incredible. And you look at that Blue Zones doco with all those bits about like growing food, being able to sit on the ground, move your body, all those bits. You're like, geez, this is fascinating.
Well, it's fascinating and it's important that people get the right information too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you need the confidence to actually say, well, where am I? Where am I spending my energy and what am I doing? But we control so much. And it reminded me, it's not so much along those lines, but geez, along this line of control, you can control and, Viktor Frankl, Auschwitz, some brilliant stuff on the way.
Happiest man alive?
The happiest man alive is, stand tall and shave every day. It's just like, what can I do amongst absolute shitstorm, people being murdered everywhere, just a horrible place to be. It's just like, well, what can I do? I can control how I walk into that environment every day. I'm going to shave. Yep. I'm going to stand tall. I'm going to, as hard as and difficult that is, but we still have a decision to make, even under extreme stress, what we do with that.
It was when you were talking before about the leadership camp and the 4-star general. Is that the term, 4-star general? And I've seen this unbelievable YouTube video years ago, and I still think about it all the time. And it's about a general in the army. I'm not sure if it was a 4-star or not, but he talks about making your bed and the importance of just making your bed. And his whole talk was about if you can just start your day by achieving one thing, perfectly making your bed, or just putting your pillows back in the right place, you're starting with a win. And it's like the stand tall shave. Just you're rocking up, already achieving one part of your day. And it's what they do. It's a really powerful speech. I'll actually link it in the show notes. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, that's that flow-on effect, isn't it? You do something, you feel good about yourself, builds confidence. You have, because you feel good about achieving that small thing, then you actually have a certain hormone release. Yeah. It makes you feel better, and then you feel more motivated to do something else, and just, the rich get richer. That's so all. Good. The habit stacking, and the person who does nothing till lunchtime knows they've done nothing, knows that that's not what they should be doing, and then they have the opposite. They have all the negative hormones being released. They feel bad about themselves, serotonin's low, all the rest of it, and then they can't get themselves out of it. So we get the flip side, isn't it? We see the flip side all the time. But I just want to talking about what you can control and what you can't control. I remember James Sicily, talk about some of these, athletes, they try things and they change things, and I remember him. He was struggling for a period, and I said, mate, I just want you to do one thing. I just want you to change your diet. I just want you to, talk to the dietitian, but this is where we want to go. Just give me a month of committing, to this diet in terms of your energy, because I can't recover and I'm feeling shit all the time. And, and then I remember he came back in my office and he said, well, mate, why didn't you tell me this was so good? Why didn't you tell me 6 months ago? He goes, I cannot believe how good I feel. I cannot believe how good I feel, just changing. And he didn't change a lot, but he really committed to some, what you take out and what you put in. And there's lots of, guys at Carlton like that, and, Cripple well, and, he has spent so much time and energy and, around the world looking at, what to do and how to do it better and tweaking this and that. And, he is at the point where he's looking for the marginal gains. Like most people aren't. Don't worry about marginal gains, as we talked about earlier. Just get the basic rocks right. When you get to that level, you can start looking at and it's all about energy. It's all about energy, and energy equals you have a better average output every day. Talk about building confidence and resilience. It comes back to being better every day, and your best is good, and your worst, you're bridging the gap between your best and your worst. It's as simple as that. Bridging your gap between your best and your worst day, your worst moment. And that comes out in everything in life. Your best moment in the boardroom versus your worst moment in the boardroom where you just lose your shit. That best moment in a game versus the biggest mistake you've made under huge pressure with 100,000 people and millions of people watching. That you're training yourself for those moments, and you don't know. What you don't know is when the moments are going to show up. So you're not thinking I'm training myself for then and then and there. You're just training yourself for extreme moments in life, because stress will pop up, and it'll pop up when you least expect it. And that's the beauty of doing a lot of this type of stuff, is that you're prepared without even knowing it for when that presents itself.
Love it. I do want to bore you with one little anecdote. Is that okay? Start of the year.
Go for it.
I was having a bit of I was just like in a period where, to be honest, you know what it's like when you can only put so much energy into so many things, and to really dedicate yourself to something and be good at something, you have to nearly just, the burners. It's like you have to nearly switch all burners off and just fucking go ham at one. And that was work for me. I was probably burying myself in that, trying to start a family, all those bits and pieces. But what went with that was my physical health, bit of mental health, relationships, all those bits and pieces that go away when you're really trying to grow something and be good at it, which I don't regret, because you need to do that in order to do something cool.
Yeah.
But then it comes to times where you need to switch back. Was like, I genuinely never have felt worse, like in my body, just in tiredness. Like I was finding myself at like midday just going like, I need a fucking nap. Like I'm so tired. So when I had these blood tests, spoke a little bit about this at the start of the year, but low B12, which from my understanding carries the red blood cells around, which is why not enough oxygen. So I'm always fatigued. And I had high cholesterol. So that came from a sedentary lifestyle in terms of not working out enough, but also the fact that like every day, no preparation of food, straight on the Uber Eats, Guzman and Gomez, straight to the office or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So a big check for me was like getting those parts and being like, all right, now that burner's looking after itself. Let's turn a couple others on, dedicate some back into this to get myself where I am. Better me, put my, my oxygen mask on so I can actually look after other people again. But the big thing has been like the physical side of things. And now that I'm getting back into that and really putting energy into those facets, like I can see how much everything else is improving.
Which, that's just, you go through it, but it's not till you go through it that you realise how powerful it is, do you? Because a lot of us don't realise you're in that. I bet you didn't realise you're in that space for a while.
No idea.
And then all of a sudden it's like, hang on, either someone's told you, someone's challenged you, or you've had a moment of, geez, I've let someone down here.
Yeah. You know what it was? I was at a mate's wedding. It was in Bali. And I remember always loving being around the pool with the rig out. And I remember a couple of my mates who aren't athletes, they kind of like, fuck, wow. And I was like, whoa, and it hurt. Like it kicked me, like not hurt, I wasn't upset by it, but I was just angry. Really. And you need to get angry to make a change. And I'm not where I want to be yet, but fuck, the first month I've already made so many good changes in my body. Like I'm still struggling a little bit with energy, but it's coming back.
Yeah, which is cool. And I think, you get rewarded.
Yeah.
You do get rewarded in the long run. It shows out. It shows up. And when I did this leadership course overseas, it was the first time I'd been part of a leadership course where they talked about total health. They spent a day on diet. Every morning we went out into the Colorado mountains, which are spectacular, like unbelievably spectacular, the mountains. And we'd either run, walk, box, and it didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter if you'd done nothing, a lot. They just catered for you, but said, you know what? You got to get your own shit right here. If you're going to lead others, and whether that's in your family, leading your kids, at work. I mean, we're all leading someone, something. We all do it. You got to get your own shit right, before you can worry about anyone else, because they're picking up everything. They're picking up everything, whether it's at a conscious or subconscious level. They're picking up everything from you. So if you want to be a good leader, you have to be all in. You got to model it. You got to model it.
Jack, that was. Honestly, I think we could do 7-part series on this. I want to get you back in more this year. I'm wary of your time, and I know you got a lot on, but that was seriously one of the best chats I've had in a long time, mate. I really appreciate it. I know a lot of people are going to get a shit ton out of that. We need to do it again,
mate. We can.
I'd love.
We can.
That is.
Have you had people who have you had back third time?
Emma Murray. She comes every year at the first just to set us up. She's unbelievable mind, Emma. She's very good. But, yeah, I'd love to make you a staple.
Well, hopefully it's after the Blues have had some
win
success.
Have you, on a personal level too, and you don't have to talk about this now, but is this, like, you've got a serious wealth of knowledge. I feel like a lot of people should be able to access this at a wider level. Have you ever thought about doing any more stuff, like, long-term in your career? Like, I know you're doing incredible things at the moment. But.
No, absolutely. I love this, and I do bits and pieces of it outside the footy club, but not very often. But I love it. I mean, fundamentally, what is your purpose? And I spent a lot of hard yards trying to work that out. And I've spoken a little bit about this. My dad was a doctor, and I sort of felt like I wasn't achieving a lot. Whether it's subconscious or not, relating it to him, he saved lives. I'm just helping people run around the footy field. It took me a long time to work out, what is my purpose and why I'm doing it. This is like the middle of my career. I was really lost, and it's just like, what is the reason for all this? So I'm a lot better. I've worked that out. I just want to help people. Right now, that's the players, that's the Carlton Football Club, that is whoever is in that environment. I just want to help people be the best they can be. Now, part of that we know is it's the challenge, it's the support, it's all that, which is, I love all that. But when footy is done, absolutely, I will branch out. Leadership space is, a real passion of mine. I've spent a lot of time and energy over the years in that space, traveling the world, reading, talking, all that. But yeah, no, I the chat we've had today, I want to get to as many people as possible so they can live, really highly functioning lives and feel better about themselves and everything that flows from that. So you have one conversation with one person that improves the way that they live a little bit, and that just, when you see that in a footy club, there's 45 players and there's a lot of stuff and everything. The tentacles are so wide. You have a player and his wife and the kids and the family and the auntie, and then for every player, there's another 5 to 25 people that are being influenced in some way by what's happening there. There's hundreds and hundreds of people just directly. And then obviously it's the fan base. And I was talking to Vossi about this yesterday. It's just like, I've been at 4 clubs and it just blows me away. And he was the same. It's like, it blows us away, the passion of Carlton. Yeah. It blows me away. And I'm not overstating it. Yeah. The passion is extraordinary. And it's just amazing to see, no one says, oh, g'day Joe, I'm a Carlton supporter. Every single one, mate, I'm a mad lunatic. Like they say it. Yeah. You don't have to say it, they say it. And so what winning does and the way that they play, not just winning, but just the way that they play and what they represent and how that affects so many people continues to blow me away. And as I've got older in life, I appreciate that more and more and more. Early in my career, it was just about, winning and getting the job done and getting a premiership. And, now it's just like it's so far beyond that now, the reach of what it does to people. It's the old, why we're living, something to do, someone to love and something to look forward to, isn't that, we're in some small way playing our role, love their footy team, they really look forward to the weekend. The hope aspect, all thinking, we lost last week, but guess what? Next week's a new week, or next year's a new year. Like every supporter has that, element of hope. And I'm not kidding you. The most extraordinary experience I've ever had in the game. There's 2 most extraordinary experiences. One was after the Melbourne game last year, walking off the ground, winning that final, was unbelievable. Like I remember walking off Vossi, and it would have been probably 3 minutes after the game, maybe 5 minutes. You sort of lose time. And I reckon there were 70,000 people going off. Like, unbelievable raw passion, 70,000, because some had left, the Melbourne supporters had left, but the majority were there. It was just extraordinary. And then the next week versus Brisbane, the team loses and gets cheered off the ground by 10,000, 15,000. And I have never been to an interstate venue where it felt like it was your club. Yeah. Especially in a final. Like, it was just like, this is a Carlton game. It was just, and the players to be able to experience that, I mean, that's so special. They love it. They appreciate it. They talk about it. They understand the responsibility they have that goes with that. It's big. It's big for them. They understand it. But yeah, that was just extraordinary walking off the ground, and must have been 10 or 15,000 at least cheering like we'd won the game.
What's incredible is I'm, so lucky to have Carlton embedded in my life, and to this day, like this, whatever this is now is built off the backbone of that support. Like, I've been able to grow and find other people, but still to this day, Carlton is a massive part of what this is. And I went to the Melbourne game, I went to the Brisbane game as well, even flew up. And one thing that was really cool is, like, no matter what we do now and how lucky I am to do what we do, there's something about being in a team and an elite sport that I sat back and was like, fuck, you can't experience this anywhere else. In terms of, I wasn't a part of it at all, and it hurt. But like, I don't really want to be a part of it, but there's a part of me going, oh fuck, I wish I was a part of that. Like, the way people look at you, the way you can make people feel. We're reaching so many people today, and I hope it's helping millions. But there's something about sport and the way that it can actually like galvanise strangers and families and relationships is pretty fucking special. It's like church, really. I know a lot of people might follow religion or they don't, but back in the day, everyone went to church on Sunday. It's not so much a thing anymore. Like the MCG is really a church, and it's like people go, they feel a part of something. It's a community. It's pretty cool. And I think I know players understand it, but it's hard until you probably aren't in it anymore to really respect it.
Yeah. I think as they get older, and certainly the Carlton players that have been through a lean period, like they really, like their appreciation levels, they're really extremely humble about the whole thing. That is pretty special to see some of those guys went through some tough times and now, to experience a little bit on the other side. It's why we do it. I think COVID, I feel like there's an extra layer of passion and the connection piece, like the religious piece, it feels more powerful after COVID. I mean, that's a pretty extraordinary event that we went through in terms of, the history, the short-term history of our world. Yeah. It's pretty extreme.
It's weird as well.
So I feel like there's more of that, more passionate, more connection.
Oh, it's going to be a huge year. Can you give us one player you think is going to take the next level this year?
Oh, one player? I'll give you heaps. Elijah Hollands has not missed a session.
People forget how good he is. Like pick 7, I think, at Gold Coast.
Yeah. He's doing some stuff that's pretty special that you don't see a lot of players do on the field. Motlop has been, in terms of small forwards, he's gone to another level. It's really exciting because probably about their 4th or 5th year, you see players reach what they're going to be, or they get to 95% of what they're going to be by then. If they're not there then, they're probably not going to get there. Then there's always exceptions, but 4th or 5th year it's there, and then there's just marginal. They just improve a bit over and but that 2nd to 4th year is really cool. Really fortunate to be able to see them develop physically, emotionally, in so many ways. During that period, so that's where they pop. That's where they really pop. De Conning's been very good. Young guy. Harry Lemmy has had a very good, tour forward. He's had a very, very good preparation. There's lots of guys there that, lots of guys. Some of our midfield a lot better than last year. So we hope there's some good times.
Yeah, I can feel something brewing, that's for sure. It's exciting. It's really exciting, mate. Hey, again, thank you so much for your time. Genuinely learn a lot today, and I know a lot of people would have got a lot out of it, so I look forward to getting you back in and looking forward to the season ahead under yourself and Vossi and Cookie and the rest of the crew. It's in good hands, and looking forward to also seeing what's next for you in the next sort of 5 to 10 years. I think some pretty cool shit's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I'll just worry about now. Just focus on now, and
I'm a future guy.
Good luck for the marathon, eh?
Thanks, mate. Thank you very much.
Energy back.
See you, mate.